Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a controversial ban on transgender people serving in the military goes into effect.
You're telling people who are ready to do the work and willing to lay down their life for you that they are not worthy.
How the new policy affects the military and how local veterans are responding. Plus, offering a helping hand to those living on the streets. Details on the resource fair and those in need in East County. And overcoming disabilities and becoming super able, a local movement using comic book creations to change stereotypes. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Friday, April 12th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Starting today, a transgender ban going into effect. Transgender troops can no longer join the U.S. military. This update from the Pentagon is sparking reaction in San Diego and across the country.
You're telling people who are ready to do the work and willing to lay down their life for you that they are not worthy.
A new Trump administration policy goes into effect. Starting today, no one who is transgender or receiving hormone therapy will be allowed to enlist in the armed services. The policy will also require most troops to serve in their birth gender and largely bar them from transitioning to another sex. 3 years ago, the Obama administration ruled to allow transgender individuals to serve openly in the military. President Trump first announced his intention to reverse that decision in 2017.
As you know, it's been a very complicated issue for the military. It's been a very confusing issue for the military. And I think I'm doing the military a great favor.
Since then, the policy has been challenged, not only in court, but also by LGBT advocacy groups. Military veterans and city officials held a press conference on the ban today in Hillcrest at the LGBT Community Center. Deja Cabrera, a coordinator for Project Trans, condemned the move.
No one should have to face threats to their job status, personal safety, health, and well-being simply for being transgender.
Exempt from the ban are those already openly serving and in the transitioning process, or those who received a gender dysphoria diagnosis prior to today. Gender dysphoria is defined as a condition in which a person's gender identity does not match the gender assigned at birth. Some believe the ban is pushing people back into the closet and repeating the controversial "don't ask, don't tell" policy. Tristan Sotomayor is a U.S. Navy veteran who carried the secret of being transgender throughout his military career.
I didn't feel safe in my own working environment to be my authentic self. I felt as though if I came forward, it could affect my promotion status, that I would not be trusted as a young mentor to sailors, or my worst fear, that my transgender identity would get me kicked out. I knew that if I outed myself, my time in the Navy would have looked much different. No words can describe what it feels like to be made fun of, disrespected, and dehumanized by your fellow service members in arms. Policies like this harmful transgender military ban reinforces that these behaviors are condoned by the military.
City Council member Chris Ward says this is not what progress in America looks like.
And this is taking us 2 steps back in our history and regressing and sending people back into the closet, forcing them to make difficult choices between openly being who they are or fulfilling their mission to be able to serve our country well.
And our local military veterans like Tristan and Nick Herrera say exclusion will not make this country stronger.
Most transgender military members, including myself, are just trying to serve their country and deeply believe in a system that doesn't even believe in them.
Transgender people are not burdens. Transgender people are not deficient. Transgender people are not less than or damaged or any of the other misleading and false things that you may have heard.
There are currently more than 1 million active duty service members in the military. According to recent studies, between 10 and 15,000 of them identify as transgender. President Donald Trump says he is giving strong consideration to placing illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities only. The White House said hours before Trump's tweet that it had considered a plan to release detained immigrants into so-called sanctuary cities, but the plan was quickly dropped after lawyers advised against it. Sanctuary cities are places where authorities don't work with immigration and customs enforcement to round up those living in the country illegally. People who are homeless are getting a helping hand in El Cajon. Even their animals are benefiting. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman shows us what today's resource fair had to offer.
Give me five.
Oh my gosh, I gotta get a picture of this.
Angel Gomez was with his dog Luna at the resource fair Friday.
And what I like about it is the free animal service. You know, she got chipped today, she got medicine today, she got her shots today. You know, she got a Padre pillow today somewhere. Yeah, so, you know, it's, you know, things I couldn't really afford. They gave her some grain-free food. They gave her a Kong ball, which is, these things are expensive. She got a little outfit, so when it gets cold. Good girl. Watchdog Luna.
Gomez lives out of his van and says Luna helps keep his spirits up.
You know what, man? God keeps me happy. God and Luna. You know, I've had my good times, you know, good days, you know, good jobs, and then all of a sudden things go downhill. You know, life is a roller coaster. That's how I like to put it.
Gomez says he does not want to enter supportive housing unless his dog can come with him.
You know, we're comfortable in the van, you know. We got a mattress in there, and, you know, it's comfortable. I'm not going to say it's not, and I'm not going to say it's the best. Yeah, there's days I get up, I go up and down. I get depressed, you know, I get upset. But then I snap out of it. And I told her, hey, let's go for a walk.
There were also free haircuts at the event. That's when we caught up with Roysanne Barnes, who says she's been homeless the last 15 years.
No, I'm behind a tree. It's awesome.
She says events like this are a huge help.
I was so excited when my husband told me. I was like, no way.
Barnes was also able to pick up some clothes at the resource fair. She says politicians and police don't understand people who are homeless.
I don't agree with how the higher upper power people treat the homeless people out here. They think if they take everything from them that they're just going to go away. It's not happening. It's not going to happen that way.
Watchdog Luna, because she wears a watch, see?
Gomez agrees that some politicians just don't get people who are homeless. He lives out of his van, and Mayor Kevin Faulconer wants to prohibit people from doing that in San Diego.
If you can't live in your car, then, you know, what are you going to do? Sleep outside of your car, under it? Is that legal?
There were a number of services offered at today's event, ranging from things like Social Security benefits to programs that help people get into housing, and even things like mental health services.
There was also a medical clinic outside where people could get a checkup. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Project Homeless Connect organizers expect to serve a couple hundred people at today's event. Some comic book writers with disabilities are joining forces to create the Super Able comic book anthology. KPBS video journalist Andy Duluth is good friends with the project's creator, Travis Rivas. She met up with him at a comic book shop to talk about why he wants to redefine what it means to have a disability.
This is my happy place. This is where I come to get away from the world and all of its weirdness. My name is Travis Rivas. I am a comic book writer here in San Diego. I've written several comic books, including The Unstoppable Cherub. Right now I'm working on a story called Super Abled Comics, which is all about disabled creators creating disabled superheroes. We are here at SoCal Comics. We're looking at the Flash. Flash is pretty cool. This last summer I went to the Lucky Finn Project weekend where I got to finally meet a bunch of individuals with limb differences and disabilities like me, and I noticed that there was a lot of talented people. We all had our own unique stories and characters we wanted to tell, so I figured we should try and combine our efforts and create an anthology. More X-Men, and it's probably disgusting how much X-Men material I have. So my limb difference is called TAR syndrome. It stands for thrombocytopenia absent radius. And what that means is I was born missing the radius bone in both of my forearms. There are people with TAR syndrome all over the world who have more than just limb difference problems. They have leg problems, issues with their heart. There's a lot of symptoms that go into TAR syndrome. I kind of just happen to be the best case scenario. So when I was growing up, it was really difficult because children will kind of notice any kind of difference and sort of target you. People would make fun of me, call me names like T-Rex. They would put their arms in their shirt and kind of pretend to have short arms and be like me. They would point and they would laugh. Even now, I work at an elementary school during my day job. I still have children that point and laugh at me. It's just now as an adult, I have the ability to confront them and say, hey, it's not okay to do that. Whereas as a kid, I didn't have that ability, and I really internalized a lot of it. Got Nightcrawler, one of my favorite characters. Nightcrawler's cool because Nightcrawler's limb different. He's only got 3 fingers on his hand instead of all 5. So most of my life, I wasn't comfortable using the word disabled or disability. And it wasn't until I started meeting other individuals with limb differences that I started to have this kind of conversation about it. Something I've noticed is that there's a big conversation going on in the community on whether or not you use the term disabled. I use limb difference because I think it's the most applicable to me. I don't think my limb difference has affected my ability or my adaptability at all, but there are a lot of individuals in the community who've been taking the word disability and redefining it to be much more empowering than has traditionally been used to talk about us. So when I was working on this anthology, I was really struggling to come up with a name, and then I saw an interview with Amy Purdy, who is a bilateral double leg amputee, and she talked about her experiences living the life as someone with a disability. And she said, I'm not disabled, I'm super abled. And that term just clicked with me. So I've recently been talking out on Twitter about how a particular movie kind of engaged in a disability erasure. And I got a lot of responses. And this particular character is a superhero. And I was really disappointed that their disability wasn't represented in their superhero persona. One of the responses I got was someone saying that a superhero with a disability would be like if Superman's hand was made out of kryptonite. And my response to them is that my hands are not kryptonite. They're very much a source of strength for me. That's one of the stigmas that we're having to combat. And one of the things that I want to do with Super Abled Comics and with my comics in general is to show people that people with disabilities are here. We are normal people in the sense that we have normal struggles. We're just like everybody else, and we're not weak. Hey, Matt, is the giant size 9.6 in the case over there? What I would like to do with Super Abled Comics is I would like to see people in movies and people in media who look like me. The little kid out there right now who has TAR syndrome or any kind of disability, they won't look at the movies and say, oh, I can't be that. I want them to feel empowered, to feel like they can do anything and they can be anything.
Once again, that was KPBS video journalist Andy Ducliffe. As you head into the weekend, you might notice that it's going to cost a little bit more to fill up your gas tank. AAA estimates that a gallon of gas costs almost $4 a gallon here in San Diego. And we're going to be talking about that plus so much more for the Friday Business Report. And joining us is Mira Kopik with Bottom Line Marketing and SDSU to talk about this week's Friday Business News. Welcome.
Thanks, Ebony.
So when gas prices inch up, what happens to consumer spending?
Well, it depends on how much they inch up, but they've inched up 61 cents since January and 33 cents just in the last month alone. So that translates since the beginning of the year to basically $9 more per fill up. So if you fill up 4 times a month, that's $36 that you're going to spend more on gas, and you're not, maybe that's a utility bill, that's a dinner out, that's a movie. So consumers are going to start to make choices, and what it looks like is that the gas is going to continue to go up going into the summer driving season for several reasons. The first is that California tends to go to a new blend of gas, a summer blend of gas that reduces pollution when a lot more cars are on the road and it's hot. And that's about 8 to 12 cents more per gallon than the winter blend. So that's number one. So all these refineries are kind of doing maintenance. But there was a fire at a refinery in Carson last week, which took out a lot of capacity. And also, the ethanol that's used in the summer blend, there was a lot of flooding in the Midwest. They were late in planting crops, and so the ethanol part of that is also up. So all these things are factors in driving up the price.
Okay, so also this week we finally got a peek of what we could possibly see for the tech campus in downtown San Diego, set to take over the Horton Plaza property. The developers of that $1 million square foot property showed some possible renderings just this week. Is this the first step in possibly making downtown a tech hub here in San Diego?
Absolutely. That was the intent when Stockdale Capital Partners kind of bought Horton Plaza. They wanted to convert that into this tech campus to bring in 4,000 employees into downtown and really make downtown, then Sorrento Valley, and hopefully Carlsbad, 3 big tech hub areas for the city of San Diego. One of the challenges is that the grant deed for Horton Plaza requires that 600,000 square feet are retail space. Okay. And what the builder and what this developer has done is they flipped it around. They want 600,000 square feet as office space, and they showed this great new shiny design with open walkways, a lot of greenery, floor-to-ceiling glass, so really exciting, but they want 600,000 square feet of office space. And at the bottom, they're going to put all the retail space. And so they were in front of the San Diego Economic Development Committee to kind of explain to them if they can work that out, the city council will have to vote to change the grant deed, and if that's the case, they could begin building, and their desires to be getting people in these offices by 2020.
So finally, it's a great time to work for Bank of America. The company just announced that it's going to increase its minimum wage to $20 an hour. And one of the company's spokespeople said that basically it's time to share the wealth with the employees. Will other major companies follow suit?
You know, I think a lot of companies have pushed B of A and other banks to do so, because after the Great Recession, the banks really struggled to make profits there. There was a lot of government regulation. There was a lot of people removing funds from banks. In the last few years, banks have been insanely profitable. And one of the big areas that are targeted because of these regulations is CEO pay. So Bank of America, their CEO makes on average 250 times the median salary of a worker. Wow. So from an optics perspective, that's a major issue. Yesterday on Capitol Hill, Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he was really crucified in front of a congressional committee on trying to explain how someone can live on $16 an hour, which is the JP Morgan Chase minimum wage. So B of A is doing a couple of very interesting things. Not only are they raising the minimum wage to $20, starting $17 on May 1st and then rising for the next couple of years, they're also holding for these workers healthcare costs fixed. And with healthcare costs rising between high single digits and double digits every year, that will really be relief for these workers, because this salary actually is 3% real wage growth over inflation, which is actually a big positive.
So that wraps it up for this week's Friday Business Report. Thank you so much, Mira Kopik.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Well, we're still talking about some wet conditions across the Southwest, but for San Diego, not talking about any shower activity for this evening. We've been tracking out an upper level trough as well as an area of low pressure. And as you see on the satellite from several hours ago, well, we had some moisture going on in towards Arizona, and that will continue to make its way in towards New Mexico and eventually in towards Texas. But here at home, it is clear tonight, a low of 57, and will be clear across much of the region. Oceanside, a low of 45, cooling down to 56 in Borrego Springs and 37 in Mount Laguna. Still some winds for tonight, but nothing critical. We move into your weekend. Yeah, smile about that. It is a weekend, pleasant conditions for much of California, and that's because we have this ridge building. It's a weak one, not the strongest, but it is going to bring a warming trend into your Saturday as well as into your Sunday. Looking at a high of 71 in Oceanside, 72 in San Diego, topping off in the upper 80s for Borrego Springs, lower 60s in Mount Laguna. Lots of sun, so don't forget the sunglasses, and always put on some sunscreen as you head out the door. For the early week, we still remain pretty dry for Southern California. What we do have to watch out for is this disturbance to the north and several other disturbances that will be coming in. Some of that energy will try to drop down. We won't see any precipitation from it, but what we will notice is the chance for some cooler conditions to come back into the region. So for your Saturday and Sunday, you're looking at a high of 71 at the coast, then cooling down slightly Monday and Tuesday as we track out yet another upper level disturbance that will bring some low clouds, and then returning to sunshine on Wednesday with temperatures slightly increasing. Inland area also going to see that same pattern, warm for this weekend, trying to get near 80. Monday, Tuesday, slightly cooler than Wednesday. Sunlit, warmer conditions coming back into play. 80s for the desert areas with lots of sunshine. through the middle of the week, and we'll be seeing a warm up in the mountains, 60s for this weekend, then into the 50s for your Monday and Tuesday. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Jajia Swad. Back to you.
Raccoons are known for being tricky and for being smart. In tonight's SciTech Friday report, producer Luke Proskin shows us how researchers at the University of Wyoming are reevaluating them.
In the early 1900s, they had all these great hypotheses about the intelligence of raccoons. But what happened was that they were kind of a handful to deal with in the lab, and so after a few years, researchers kind of threw in the towel. But it hasn't been until more recently that we're realizing how successful these animals are. They have really wide distributions and expanding populations, and they're doing this even in the face of environmental change. And so I'm in the Animal Behavior and Cognition Lab, and we're really interested in studying them and trying to understand if their cognition aids in being so successful. In 2015, we started the University of Wyoming Raccoon Project. Our goal is to trap as many individuals as we can in this population. And then we know who that individual is, and we can track their progress across our different experiments. And so once we've trapped a raccoon, we will process it, which means we immobilize it in order to take biological samples of interest for our project. We always take vitals, including heart rate, rest rate, and temperature. But then we also give them a PIT tag, and it's very much like a microchip that you would use, in a dog or a cat. And so when we scan the raccoons, they each have their own unique ID, and this allows us to identify individuals. And so it's a really, really helpful tool when we're doing cognition in the wild experiments. So the next thing was giving them different puzzle boxes. So the puzzle box experiment is a box that has food inside of it, and it's latched and it's closed, and the idea is to look at how raccoons are able to problem solve in order to open the door so that they can receive the food from inside. It's a bolt latch that when it's locked, the animal can't access it by grabbing at the door or biting at the door. They have to actually grab the knob and push it to the right to pop the door open. In the first version of our puzzle box, we put many doors and many locks that were all uniform, and the idea was to study their learning by looking at how long it took them to open the first door to the second to the third. With our second device, there are multiple different problems on this box. There are multiple different latches, and so we wanted to see if we start with one challenge, can you adjust your behavior and adjust your technique to open this new box? And that allows us to get an assessment of their behavioral flexibility. So we monitor the puzzle boxes by setting up these infrared cameras. We're looking at their learning speed, we're looking at the different types of behaviors that they direct towards the puzzle box that they use when they're problem solving. So right now we are going back and reviewing all of our video footage and quantifying their progress in the experiments. So some individuals, chose not to participate in our experiments. Some individuals may have only found one or two solutions, but then we did see other raccoons who opened all of the doors and who found all of the solution types. Lemongrass, for example, would come every night and she would open every door of our puzzle boxes, and so it was pretty clear that she had solved this problem. There were times where we might have 3 male raccoons show up at the puzzle box at one time, or other times we saw a mom come with a group of 4 kids. And so we're really interested in trying to understand how the social context may have affected their problem-solving ability or their performance. So right now we're still coding the videos from our puzzle box experiments, but the next thing we're going to do is look at their learning in a different way. So this is the next cognitive experiment we're going to be taking into the field with our wild raccoons here in Laramie. This device has an automated feeder in it, and so when the raccoons push a correct button, they will get an automatically released food reward. Let's say if the animal had the left button correct first, we're then going to switch it and we're going to make the right button correct. So this is a very classic test of behavioral flexibility. And we're going to look at the number of incorrect button pushes the animal makes while it sticks with that initial correct choice before it switches its behavior and it starts picking the other option. Raccoons always seem to behave in ways that I don't expect, but I don't know if I would call a raccoon a trash panda or a bandit, perhaps. To a raccoon, they're not being mischievous. They're being raccoons. They are just surviving and they're thriving in these new environments that we've made. I think that their cognition can help them find these resources and to figure out the best ways to exploit them, and I think that contributes to how successful they are.
You can see more Science Friday specials like that one online at sciencefriday.com. Pack Art's Spring Showcase kicks off its 9th year this week with 8 days of Asian cinema. KPBS film critic Beth Accomando has a preview.
Because there's an excess of great Asian cinema, PAC Arts treats audiences to a pair of film festivals each year. The main San Diego Asian Film Festival is in the fall, and this month we get the smaller Spring Showcase. The showcase highlights Asia pop, discoveries, mystery kung fu theater, and works from masters. This year, the most exciting sidebar is temptingly called From the Claws of Darkness, Restoring Philippine Cinema. One of the films is Hamala from 1982, about a cursed town and the turmoil that erupts when a woman claims to see the Virgin Mary. The film typifies the beauty, melodrama, and gripping power of Philippine cinema. The festival runs through April 18th at Ultrastar Cinemas, Mission Valley. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the next wave of wireless technology. The chairman of the FCC, Ajit Pai, on the future of 5G communication in the U.S. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Voters have spoken, but volunteer firefighters refuse to leave their post in Julian. The new electric vehicle roadmap for San Diego, and how technology is changing the human experience. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.